Good day, beautiful people. Top of the day, top of the day. Let me get out of this page here. Okay. Sorry, people. Okay, finally. All right, Betswabu, Betswabu. Happy Wednesday, people. Happy Wednesday. It is October the 28th, 2020. Day 287 of year 2 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and day 651 of the 2-year consecutive day count. Boom. All right, y'all. Today we are reading 78, 79, and 80. I do want to check something real quick. No, that's not it. Okay. All right, y'all. So the chapters, that's 13. Okay, y'all. We're gonna stick with the 3 chapters for today. Okay, so they averaging about 19 verses. Okay, y'all. Let's go ahead and get started. Greetings, greetings. Psalm chapter 78. O my people, listen to my instructions. Open your ears to what I am saying, for I will speak to you in a parable. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past, stories we have heard and known, stories our ancestors handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of Yahuah and about the mighty power and about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach their children so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born, and they in turn will teach their own children. Okay, so right there, verse 5 through verse 6, it also verifies. If you read Jubilees, I may have posted it when I did I think it was in the post I did on day 7. Was it day 7 of creation? I think it was day 7 on creation, when he was talking about how he created the Sabbath, and he also gave his laws. He issued his laws to Jacob. So a lot of time now, in my understanding, not saying that nobody else can teach Yahuwah's word, because Yahuwah is gracious. He's gracious to all, but at first he issued his law to his own people. So his own people, and then could turn and teach others. So that's why a lot of times, I'm checking, like I said before, I'm checking everybody, not just our people, but especially people of other nations, because I've come to find out in some things they have wrong interpretations of stuff, right? So I'm not gonna harp on that too much, but that's just something to take note of. And also remember that the prophets are of Israel. Yahuwah's prophets are of him. Like I said, not saying other people and other nations cannot get prophecies from Yahuwah, because they can. But when scripture talks about the prophets, know that all the prophets and the priests, they come from Israel. They descend from one of Jacob's sons, one of his 7 sons, one of the 12 tribes, right? Okay, so I read that again. Psalm 78, verse 5. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to their children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born, and they in turn will teach their own children. So each generation should set its hope anew on Yahuwah, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. Then they will not be like their ancestors, stubborn, rebellious, and unfaithful, refusing to give their hearts to Yahuah. The warriors of Ephraim, though armed with bows, turned their backs and fled on the day of battle. They did not keep Yahuah's covenant, and they refused to live by his instructions. They forgot what he had done, the great wonders he had shown them, the miracles he did for their ancestors on the plain of Zoan in the land of Egypt. For he divided the sea and led them through, making the water stand up like walls. In the daytime he led them by a cloud, and all night by a pillar of fire. He split open the rocks in the wilderness to give them water, as from a gushing spring. He made streams pour from the rock, making the waters flow down like a river. Yet they kept on sinning against him, rebelling against the Most High in the desert. They stubbornly tested Yahuah in their hearts, demanding the foods they craved. They even spoke against Yahuah himself, saying, "Y'all can't give us food in the wilderness." Yes, he can strike a rock so water gushes out, but he can't give his people bread and meat. When Yahuah heard them, he was furious. The fire of his wrath burned against Jacob. Yes, his anger rose against Israel, for they did not believe Yahuah or trust him to care for them. Let me just say something else. For those who, and I know everybody that's normally here, Grand Rising. Remember, when we hear Jacob or when we hear Israel, remember he's talking to the whole lot of us, the group of people, as it confirms when he said, for they did not believe Yahuah or trust him for them, right? So it's not one person. It's the whole nation of people. And I wanted to bring that out again because I was talking to somebody yesterday who actually has been watching. I don't even know this person, but they started commenting on one of the videos and stuff. But they're not paying attention when they read. So I read that again. Verse 21. When Yahuah heard them, he was furious. The fire of his wrath burned against Jacob, not one person. Remember, Jacob was one person, originally one person, whose name was then changed to Israel. Then Jacob had children. And now Yahuah refers to Jacob and his children by Jacob's name, Jacob or Israel. So remember, it's not just the land, it was a people first. Israel was a people first, and then they named their land after them, right? He named his land after him. The fire of his wrath burned against Jacob. Yes, his anger rose against Israel, for they did not believe Yahuah or trust him to care for them. But he commanded the skies to open. He opened the doors of heaven. He rained down manna for them to eat. He gave them bread from heaven. They ate the food of angels. Yahuah gave them all they could hold. He released the east wind in the heavens and guided them south by his mighty power. Let me bring out something else. When Yahuah gave them, he gave them what nourished their body. He gave them manna. Manna nourished them in the wilderness for 40 years. Even they weren't, the first group of them. When I say first group, it was the original group that came out. But a cluster of them began to cry out against Yah because they wanted the meat. So Yahuah calls meat. But he didn't want them to eat the meat. He was trying to detox them from everything that had been going on. So when they cried out for the meat, he sent the quail, and he said it was almost like this. When he sent the quail, I wish y'all would bite into them. And sure enough, what started happening? Everybody that touched that quail, put that meat in their mouth, they died. You don't believe me? Go back and read it. It's in there. When they cried out for food, look at what he gave them versus what happened when they cried out for something that he didn't originally give them and what happened to them when they began to eat it. Verse 24 again. He rained down manna for them to eat. He gave them bread from heaven. They ate the food of angels. Yahuah gave them all they could hold. He released the east wind in the heavens and guided the south wind by his mighty power. He rained down meat as thick as dust, birds as plentiful as sand on the seashore. He caused the birds to fall within their camp and all around their tents. The people ate their fill. He gave them what they craved. But before they satisfied their craving, here it goes. And I didn't even read ahead today. but I know it because I know the story. Listen, the people ate. I'm gonna just listen. I'm gonna just go back to 27. He rained down meat as thick as dust, birds as plentiful as the sand on the seashore. He caused the birds to fall within their camp and all around their tents. The people ate their fill. He gave them what they craved, but before they satisfied their craving, while the meat was yet in their mouths, the anger of Yahuah rose against them, and he killed their strongest men. He struck down the finest of Israel's young men. But in spite of all this, the people kept sinning. Despite his wonders, they refused to trust him. So he ended their lives in failure, their years in terror. When Yahuah began killing them, they finally sought him. It makes you think about something, doesn't it? When it started getting worse for our people, they need to make sure that they are crying out to Yahuah and Yahuah alone. Remember, Yahuah only is Israel's deliverer. The children of Israel, us, the Afro descendants, black folk, Negroes, y'all know who y'all are. When Yahuah began killing them, they finally sought him. They repented and took Yahuah seriously. Then they remembered that Yahuah was their rock, that Yahuah Most High was their Redeemer. But all they gave him was lip service. They lied to him with their tongues. Their hearts were not loyal to him. They did not keep his covenant. Yet he was merciful and forgave their sins and did not destroy them all. Listen. Yet he was merciful and forgave their sins and did not destroy them all. Many times he held back his anger and did not unleash his fury. But he remembered that they were merely mortal, going like a breath of wind that never returns. Oh, how often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved his heart in that dry wasteland. Again and again they tested Yahuah's patience and provoked the Holy One of Israel. You remember, so much so that all of them that had originally come out of there, none of the original group went into the promised land except for Joshua and Caleb. Everyone, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think everybody over the age of 21 had passed away except for Joshua and Caleb, if I got that right. But I know it wasn't the original group, but their children and their children's children got to go in. Okay. Oh, how often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved his heart in that dry wasteland. Again and again they tested Yahuah's patience and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power and how he rescued them from their enemies. They did not remember his miraculous signs in Egypt, his wonders on the plain of Zoan. But he turned their rivers into blood so that no one could drink from the streams. He sent vast swarms of flies to consume them and hordes of frogs to ruin them. He gave their crops to caterpillars. Their harvest was consumed by locusts. He destroyed their grapevines with hail and shattered their sycamore figs with sleet. He abandoned their cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. He loosed on them his fierce anger, all his fury, rage, and hostility. He dispatched against them a band of destroying angels. He turned his anger against them. He did not spare the Egyptians' lives, but ravaged them with the plague. He killed the oldest son in each Egyptian family, the flower of youth throughout the land of Egypt. But he led his own people like a flock of sheep, guiding them safely through the wilderness. He kept them safe, so they were not afraid. But the sea covered their enemies. He brought them to the border of his holy land, to this land of hills he had won for them. He drove out the nations before them. He gave them their inheritance by lot. He settled the tribes of Israel into their homes. But they kept testing and rebelling against Yahuah, the Most High. They did not obey his laws. They turned back and were as faithless as their parents. They were as undependable as a crooked bow. They angered Yahuah by building shrines to other gods. They made him jealous with their idols. When Yahuah heard them, he was very angry, and he completely rejected Israel. Then he abandoned his dwelling at Shiloh, the tabernacle where he had lived among the people. He allowed the ark of his might to be captured. He surrendered his glory into the enemy hands. He gave his people over to be butchered by the sword because he was so angry with his own people, his special possession. Their young men were killed by fire. Their young women died before singing their wedding songs. Their priests were slaughtered, and their widows could not mourn their deaths. Then Yahuah rose up as though waking from a sleep, like a warrior aroused from a drunken stupor. He routed his enemies and sent them to eternal shame. But he rejected Joseph's descendants. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. He chose instead the tribe of Judah and Mount Zion, which he loved. There he built his sanctuary as high as the heavens, as solid, as enduring as the earth. He chose his servant David, calling him from the sheep pens. He took David from tending the ewes and lambs and made him the shepherd of Jacob's descendants, Yahuah's own people, Israel. He cared for them with a true heart and led them with skillful hands. And remember, Mount Zion is where, y'all? It's Mount Kenya, the place where Yah resides. All right, y'all, that was a long chapter. All right, Psalm chapter 79. O Yahuah, pagan nations have conquered your land, your special possession. They have defiled your holy temple and made Jerusalem a heap of ruins. They have left the bodies of your servants as food for the birds of heaven. The flesh of your godly ones has become food for the wild animals. Blood has flowed like water all around Jerusalem. No one is left to bury the dead. We are mocked by our neighbors, an object of scorn and derision to those around us. O Yahuah, how long will you be angry with us? Forever? How long will your jealousy burn like fire? Pour out your wrath on the nations that refuse to acknowledge you, on kingdoms that do not call upon your name. For they have devoured your people Israel, making the land a desolate wilderness. Do not hold us guilty for the sins of our ancestors. Let your compassion quickly meet our needs, for we are on the brink of despair. Help us, O Yahuah, the God of our salvation. Help us for the glory of your name. Save us and forgive our sins for the honor of your name. Why should pagan nations be allowed to scoff, asking, where is their God? Show us your vengeance against the nations, for they have spilled the blood of your servants. Listen to the moaning of the prisoners. Demonstrate your great power by saving those condemned to die. O Yahuah, pay back our neighbors 7 times for the scorn they have hurled at you. Then we, your people, the sheep of your pasture, will thank you forever and ever, praising your greatness from generation to generation. All right, y'all. Last chapter for today, Psalm chapter 80, and it is 19 verses. Please listen, O shepherd of Israel, you who led Joseph's descendants like a flock. O Yahuah, enthroned above the cherubim, display your radiant glory to Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Show us your mighty power. Come to rescue us. Turn us again to yourself, O Yahuah. Make your face shine down upon us. Only then will we be saved. O Yahuah, the God of heaven's armies, how long will you be angry with our prayers? You have fed us with sorrow and made us to drink tears by the bucketful. You have made us the scorn of neighboring nations. Our enemies treat us as a joke. Turn us again to yourself, O Yahuah, the God of heaven's armies. Make your face shine down upon us. Only then will we be saved. You brought us from Egypt like a grapevine. You drove away the pagan nations and transplanted us into your land. You cleared the ground for us, and we took root and filled the land. Our shade covered the mountains. Our branches covered the mighty cedars. We spread our branches west to the Mediterranean Sea. Our shoots spread east to the Euphrates River. But now, why have you broken down our walls so that all who pass by may steal our fruit? The wild boar from the forest devours it, and the wild animals feed on it. Come back, we beg you, O Yahuah, God of heaven's armies. Look down from heaven and see our plight. Take care of this grapevine that you yourself have planted, this son you have raised for yourself. For we are chopped up and burned by our enemies. May they perish at the sight of your frown. Strengthen the man you love, the son of your choice. Then we will never abandon you again. Revive us so we can call on your name once more. Let me just pull out right here. Listen to this as well. When he's talking about, even when Israel know, when Yahuah says son, he's not talking about one, but the whole nation of them. Even right here, it's put there, but people just kind of, they just keep reading and gloss over stuff. Strengthen, this is Israel talking to Yahuah. Strengthen the man you love, the son of your choice. Remember, Yahuah said, Israel is my firstborn son. Remember, even in Jubilees, before creation, before the Sabbath day, he said, even at creation, I have chosen Jacob. Remember, no man named Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob had even yet to appear. But Yahuah knew down the line what this man's name would be and who all of his children are and all of their descendants that will come from him. He said, and I am choosing Jacob, the tribes of Jacob, the tribes of Israel. Them I am sanctifying to keep my laws and my statutes and my commands, and to celebrate the Sabbath here with us in heaven. We do it in heaven, and they're going to do it on the earth, right? So not only are we keeping the Sabbath here, every time the Sabbath rolls around, hold on, y'all. Hold on. Real quick. Let me read this again so you see. Son, strengthen the man you love, the son of your choice. Then we, I'm going to add, then we, who is we? We, your son. Strengthen the man you love, the son of your choice. Then we will never abandon you again. We're asking him to strengthen us, his son, so that we would never abandon him again. Strengthen the man you love, the son of your choice. Then we will never abandon you again. Revive us so we can call on your name once more. Turn us again to yourself, O Yahuah, God of heaven's armies. Make your face shine down upon us. Only then will we be saved. And that is our reading for today. So like I was just saying a few seconds ago, not only are we to celebrate the Sabbath down here, but Yahuah in heaven, in the host of heaven, they keep it in heaven as well. And if you read Jubilees, you will actually see that. And I'll post it down here in the comment section today. So if you didn't see that post the other day, at least you will know. But it's in Jubilees. If you read through Jubilees, chapter 1 through 3, you will see all of that. And it's Jubilees is the account where what happened when Moses went up to the top of the mountain to meet with Yah when the commands were issued. Well, let's say reissued or given in written form for the children of Israel. Remember, because they had been so far removed from them, because they had been in slavery over 200 something years while they were in Egypt. And mind you, they sojourned in Israel a total of 430 years, as scripture tells us in Apocrypha, but they weren't in actual slavery in Egypt for that long. Because remember, when they first went in, they were not captive. I mean, they were literally the talk of the land. The slavery didn't happen until after Joseph had died, and they had already been in the land over 100 and something years, right? So when a new Pharaoh came in, that's when he was about to go to war with their cousins, where he realized, if we go out to war, because they came and asked, Egypt came and asked Israel, the 12 tribes, to go to war with them, to join with them in war against the enemy that was coming up. But when they realized the enemy was actually our cousins, I mean, come on, y'all know how we do. We may fight with our cousins, but you better not touch my cousins. So that's what they were thinking. We go to war with their cousins, they're going to probably side with their cousins and fight against us. So let us deal wisely with this people. And that's what's left out in the book of Genesis, right? So you get, like I said before, you get a summation of the full story, but you don't get the full story in the 66 books that's canonized, and some people just can't understand that. It's like, this is what we got, this is it. No, you were taught that, but that's not the truth. So it's a portion of it, but it's not the full truth. So you have to get the other missing pieces of the puzzle, because you can't sit here and tell me that all of that what you're reading is making 100% sense. It's not. Everybody has, something is missing. Everybody has had that thought to where, this doesn't quite make sense. But okay, if you say so, we think our teachers know more than us, but sometimes they're just regurgitating garbage, right? So, if you read some of those other portions, you would see that not only we're commanded here, it was to Jacob. Now, other nations, they don't have to, but it was given to Jacob, which are the priests of the earth. There are priests within our 12 tribes, but the whole tribe of Israel is also the priest to the earth, who reports back to Yah, what we have done with the nations to bring the nations to him, right? We are the light of the earth. The bloodborn is the light of the earth, to go out and tell the other nations, the other human beings on this earth, about the goodness of the creator of heaven and earth. And it's him that saves. It's him that saves. It's him that saves, the creator of heaven and earth. And we are to bring the other nations to him as an offering, not to kill them, but Father, look, I've told somebody else about you and about your goodness, and they want to come. They want to meet you. They want to be a part of our family. And Yahuah is so gracious. He said, yes, come. Everybody that he invites into his house had the same rules and regulations applied to them as well. So he treats them just like they were blood-born sons and daughters, and we, the blood-born sons and daughters, are to treat them no different when they do come in. Right? So just like it was given to us to keep the Sabbath and those commands here on earth, they also keep them in heaven. So here's one thing. Here's the point I wanted to make. They can tamper with the stuff down here, but they cannot tamper with what's up there. And we know that on the Sabbaths that they are keeping it. So you mean to tell me, you can't tell me that over all these hundreds of years where they changed the Sabbath and they moved it, that they began celebrating it on the day the earth thought that it was being done? You mean to tell me that from the start of time that it's changed? It has never changed. So for those who like to argue about that, I would, what's the word I want to use? I want to implore you. I want to suggest to you that you just ask Yah, and he, like I told you, he made it simple. Everything that he put in creation will literally point us back to him. Even the people here on earth, if they're in tune with Yah and they love him, those who love him is simply going to point other people back to him. They're not going to point you to other gods and other things. They're going to point you back to him. We're going to always point you back to him, right? He's the authority in our lives, the final say so. So I would implore you to seek him. Father, when is the Sabbath? I want to make sure I'm in line with what you guys are doing up there. And you'll find that there is an extra special blessing on those days when we keep it according to when Yah says to keep it. And I'm not sure if any of you guys ever noticed, but the rest that you get when you keep the Sabbath on the actual Sabbath day, because remember, we find out that the Sabbath on the calendar that we follow, the Gregorian calendar, the January through December calendar, it would seem to rotate, but it's fixed. It's been fixed since the beginning of time, and that's never changed. The only thing that has changed is the different calendars that we have been following over the years and over the different decades, and how they changed them. And those days change, which threw the Sabbath off. And then they figure, let we just keep it on this day right here. It's here, and then we'll move it to Sunday. And then you got the ones that know it's Saturday. But what they don't realize that it, according to the calendar we have, it's going to rotate because it lines up with the new moon. The Sabbath is always the same. And if we follow the calendar that Yahuah has set in nature, we will find ourselves keeping the Sabbath on the day that heaven keeps the Sabbath. And we'll find an extra special blessing of rest and peace that happens for our bodies. That's something I can't even explain to you. That's just something you have to experience for yourself. It's like a rejuvenation. It's like you feel it, be like, wait a minute. I don't know what just happened today, but I must have really needed that rest. But once you start keeping it, when Yahuah said to keep it, pay attention to what happens to your body when you keep that command. It's literally like I said, I can't even explain it to you. It's just like, whoo, that was a good rest today. Like, seriously, it's almost like it's something supernatural you can feel. Like I said, some things that I can't do it justice to try and explain it to you. You just have, You have to try it. That's all I can simply tell you. And that's what I tell anybody. If they don't believe me, betwabble. Hey girl, hey. Janaya. But that's the best way that I can explain that for you guys right now, like seriously. So I know people's schedules, sometimes it's like, okay, I want to do what y'all said, but now I'm in this job where, and y'all knows that he's giving us grace for that, and so pray, ask y'all to help you out. And what I find a lot of times, like if you can't make your schedule, at least from what I've heard, because I make my schedule, so I don't have to deal with some of those things. I can just keep the commands immediately. Not that the people who don't make their schedules can't, but I find it, at least from the people who have told me, that I can't get my schedule changed, but I pray, I'm like, Father, they do their prayer, whatever they pray, so they can keep the command as he commanded. They'll find out, like, say if they're having to do a lot of moving for the job or whatever, they'll find out that Yahuah has arranged it that day for them to not have to move around so much, if that makes sense. Like one time, like my sister's an RN, she works in a hospital, and when we just started practicing or whatever, her schedule was already set and she couldn't get it changed, and she tried to find somebody to swap with her, but nobody would swap with her. So she just prayed. She said, Father, I'm trying to do my best to keep the commands, and I really want to observe the Sabbath when you say to observe it. So they normally have her on the floor, different patient, but this particular day when she went in, Yahuah is so awesome because they changed her schedule, but they didn't change it where they put it on a different day. They just changed it for that day to where all the normal moving around and checking on patients and stuff that she would normally be doing, they assigned her one patient, and she was required that day to just sit in that room with them all day long. And the patient most of the time just pretty much slept all day. So even in that, there's a great blessing. I'm like, y'all is so awesome. So as we begin to line ourselves up, we see y'all working with us and for us, So, but, once she got that straight and she realized, okay, ahead of time, we calculating now. We got to stay on it because we know it's fixed from creation. It hasn't moved from the day creation has started. But according to our calendars, it would seem to move, and it will move on this Gregorian calendar, because this Gregorian calendar changes every year. Yeah, oh, there she goes. She popped in. She was charging. She said her whole floor was quiet. And y'all awesome, boy, I tell you, I'm telling you. That's why sometimes it's like, oh, can you prove this? I'm like, some stuff I can tell you, I can give you the stuff, but I'm telling you, it's just something you have to, like, if you really like seeking truth and you really want to know, this is just something you have to experience. And that part is out of my hands. That's something that happens only between you and your creator, y'all. So that's when you have to go in and you actually have to put in your due diligence and your work and go to him and talk to him. Father, I really want to know, is this the truth? Is this the way this works? And you'll begin to see that he begins to bring things across your path to help you see and to help you line up. And then now it becomes your choice once truth is revealed to you. And that's what Yah does. He takes us through the path of truth. And it's our choice. It's our choice. He's not going to make us do it. I can't force people to do it or whatever, because some people, they're just not ready to accept truth. Or maybe they haven't heard it enough times to where it registers to them like, wait a minute, what I might be doing might be wrong, So that's why I say now, I really, like, I had to stop a conversation yesterday. A conversation going back and forth. But before I started the conversation, because it was a text, and so sometimes, texting can kind of, people can get the wrong attitude from you. So I had to preface before I even answered the question. I said, okay, listen. I said, when you see me use the caps, I'm not yelling at you or trying to get smart with you or be disrespectful in any kind of way. I'm just letting you know the reason why I use caps is to bring attention to this particular word or this particular section of words. So just so you know, because I got a lot of caps, so I'm not yelling at you, in the conversation, just asking questions. But I began to notice after a couple minutes that it was more of a, how people, you have a conversation with people and they're listening to you, but they're only listening to you to get their point across. They're not really listening to you to hear where you're coming from, to try and understand what you're saying, right? I mean, I just think it's a respectful way to engage in conversation with people, to have a proper dialogue. Some people just listen to get their point across and ain't heard a word you say. They just gonna keep boom, 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 boom. So it don't matter how much proof you're giving them, they haven't even taken the time to read the proof. I know you haven't taken the time to read the proof because you asked me for scripture. I gave you multiple scriptures, and I have these conversations a lot, so I already have these scriptures on lock, ready to go for people to answer, so I don't have to keep retyping it. Like, seriously, I have different things about, like who y'all's son is, who the Savior is, and literally I pull out just about all the scriptures. I could be missing a couple. I'm not going to say it's an exhaustive list, but it's a lot of them. So I know from the time I posted this to the 5 minutes later where you responded, either you simply just read that and you didn't go back and check me. You didn't check to see if these scripture references I gave you was right. You just, boom, 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 boom. Well, what about, so people don't allow things to soak in, to see your point of view. It's just like, boom, you wrong. I'm just going to defend what I believe, and I get that. It's a lot of that, especially people actually waking up to the truth, especially the things that we have been taught, that we were told were the truth, but we're finding out now that they're lies, So I've learned, I'll just say this. I've given people grace, but I will promptly end the conversation, and I do it respectfully, especially because, and it was a gentleman that that was on one of my videos recently, it's asking questions or whatever. But when it got to the point, and I began to see it after a couple comments, but then when he came out and say, I see why Eve was deceived first, I'm like, okay, yeah, this conversation, I said, friend, this conversation will go no further. I respected you this whole way, but you have not shown me the same respect. You would get no further comments from me. I will promptly end the conversation if I feel like you're trying to, not that I care for real, but I know other people are watching it, and I just don't want to waste my energy going back and forth with people about beliefs, because what can I do about what you believe besides present you with truth? Now it's your job to take the truth of what I told you was the truth, to go back and check that, and if you find out what I presented to you is confirmed and verified, and you see it to be truth as well, now you have to adjust your beliefs. So I understand that beliefs can be adjusted. So that's why I give people grace, and they may be missing pieces of information, to validate or invalidate their beliefs, so they can adjust to their new belief system, So that's something that's constantly changing with more information that we gather. So I tend not to argue with people, but I will cut the conversation short if I feel like you're trying to insult me, So don't go there with me, because I'm gonna cut it short, And if people keep trying to do it, I'll just, because I don't want that strife on my page or in the comment section, because other people are watching that, and it diverts people's attention, and now we got a mess down here in the comment section. I'm just not gonna go for that. I may not be able to catch everything, because there's sometimes messes that happen in between people and stuff, but for the most part, when you coming directly at me, I'll listen to you, and I actually listen to people to hear your point of view, and not just to get my point across. I was like, well, you know what, that makes sense, So let me check into that. But but as for the most part, I ain't gonna let you do that to me, So, but guys, that was our reading for today. So I got it all into that. We was talking about the Sabbath and keeping it here on earth as they keep it in heaven, right? All right. So that's it. And to check it, Alicia said, and to check it with the intent on finding the truth, not to prove a point. Exactly. When you're presented with new information. And that's something a lot of people, what I find out, people really don't know how to have a real conversation. What I find out, especially people that are armed and knowledgeable with a lot of information, not that they know it all, sometimes people who I ain't gonna say don't know that much, but maybe don't know as much about the topic of discussion, may feel intimidated, and sometimes they take the confidence and the knowledge of the other person to be arrogance, and they tend to snap back and get an attitude. So I try and, since I know that now that I've experienced that a lot, I try to kind of preface stuff just to kind of make sure, okay, try and keep these emotions and attitude at bay while we're walking through this together, because you may present something to me that I don't already know, so I don't want to shut you down where I miss some information that I may need to get from you, and I want you to do the same thing, because I may have some pieces of the puzzle that you don't have. 2 ears, 1 mouth, and humility, the beginning of learning. I like that. That is really good, Uncle Nathaniel. 2 ears, 1 mouth, and humility, the beginning of learning. Meaning you should listen twice as much as you talk. So, but yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, y'all. So with that being said, let's go to the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Okay, y'all. Yes. Okay. All right. I'll just make sure I didn't miss anybody else's comment. Okay. Verse 22. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That was it. Did I give a recap of what we read? I think I did. Did I? But if not, I just do it again. It never hurts to do it again. It's October the 28th, 2020, day 287. We read Psalm 78, 79, and 80. And this is year 2 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And this is day 651 of the 2-year consecutive day count. All right, beautiful people. I love you. And I'll see you in the morning. Peace.